There was a gentleman I interviewed here for Argentis to become a member, and I asked him what his health routines were, and he sort of had 6 different places that he went. There's Upgrade Labs, there's his gym, goes to a cold plunge place, all these different kind of spaces. And I asked him a simple question is, well, how are you measuring what's working? And he looked at me with a blank stare. He was spending thousands of dollars a month, but he wasn't looking at the data. We as an industry, the longevity industry, need some simpler data. What does my body look like? The next generation of those looks at each organ, so your brain and your bones, and you go even more specific. Your environment, so we do in-home assessments with Argentis and assess your water, your light, your air, and the toxins and so forth. There are a lot more environmental factors, mold being one of those that have to be thought through and assessed. So people are going to get smarter when they buy a home to have these assessments done in advance and map that to their longevity goals. So there's sort of data like that that's happening. But for me, I simply look at, it's the simplest measure for me on my own health.
Welcome to the Futurecaster podcast, where we give you a front row seat into the future of business, life, and human potential.
Hi, Ashley. Welcome to Futurecaster. So happy to have you here today.
Kimberly, it's awesome to be here and so happy to be here on the podcast with you.
You've built, led, and sold so many companies in your career journey. If I think about all the things you've done, if I connect the dots, it almost feels like everything was meant to be to put you in the position to start this new company and new endeavor. Could you take our audience through your entrepreneurial journey? And then when did it hit you that you saw a connection between the environment we live in and then our health, performance, and longevity?
Thank you very much for the intro. Certainly been almost as many failures as there have been successes. So it has not been an easy or a smooth ride, but I think that's what life is about. I'm here with you now in Park City, but I was in New York for 20 years, London for 8 years before that. That's where I started my career in London. Pretty typical. I was in financial services, banking, and then management consulting, but essentially moved to New York a week before 9/11 and basically fell into tech. I started a company that started identifying music. I was in a bar and listening to music I didn't know and used my phone. And I was like, oh, I wonder if you can create a service. And there's a company called Shazam that many people have heard of that some of my early technology was involved in. So kind of way back in the day was building some fun technology and doing all sorts of things in the tech space. But what happened for me in my journey, my brother had a tragic accident about 20 years ago. My best friend and younger brother was a pilot. He was in Paris. He fell from a hotel stairway 20 feet onto his head, and they had to remove his skull and put him in an induced coma. And he's basically still on a recovery journey. So I sort of lost my best friend and brother, and I regained, a new friend. But that life transition really kind of woke me up, and I started to lean into health, wellness, and the betterment economy back then. And so since then, I've been working on this concept that many might call sort of health and longevity. And Argentis, which is what we're talking a little bit about here, is the 4th company in the space of health. I started with a preventative health solution called Off the Scale, which is about reversing and slowing diabetes in 2014-15, and then created a COVID health management platform during that COVID time. And most recently, I've been working with a longevity clinic called Lumati in San Diego. They've got a few clinics now, really working with business leaders, executives, entrepreneurs, athletes on how to slow and reverse the aging process, which is something I think true and near and dear to many of us. And I have a longevity goal I talk about regularly on podcasts. I want to ski and play tennis on my 100th birthday. And that's sort of my goal for what's driving me to some degree personally. And then there's ripple effects of that through the business decisions I make. And so all of that sort of connects together to where I am now with Argentis, which is a new business based here in Park City, which is centralizing and bringing all of the aspects of health into one single environment. So where you work, where you work out, where you recover, where you get your food, the community that you're around, and connecting the dots, reducing the fragmentation, and what I call making more healthy time. So how do we create more time? And then how do we fill that healthy time with all the best activities? And that's really what Argentis is focused on. I use this phrase a little bit in what I do, which is that people lose their health to gain their wealth so that they can spend their wealth to regain their health. It's basically the cycle of life. And I see these founders around me, how they're living, running and gunning, traveling a lot, and their stress levels, cortisol, living in the fight or flight zones.
So, Ashley, as we're both brand leaders, how did you come up with the name Argentis? What does it mean? Tell me a little bit about the brand itself.
And so with Argentis, it was just a beautiful experience or a process. And for those that don't know Park City, we are a mining town. So the heritage of Park City is mining silver. And so a lot of things here, a lot of real estate here in Park City has the word silver in it. So Silver Spring, Silver Mountain Spa. And so we wanted something connected to the history. Argent is Latin for silver. And so Argentis means of silver, the property of silver. And so there's two parts to the word. So the first is that connection to the history of the mining town of Argent and Argentis. But the second part is that because we're about the betterment and the improving of the human mind and body through wellness, that's the same process that silver goes through, from the ore that you get out of the ground to all the processes to ultimately the polishing of it until it becomes the beautiful thing that you may have on your ring or silverware or whatever you've got. And so this process of refining and evolving and polishing is a lot of the language that we also now use in our sub language of the brand as we're building the space, and the rooms are called different things like the refinery. And so we've taken the whole mining and the silver concept through the whole brand from just the name itself, Argentis. We're mining our health and refining it. So it all kind of came together in a wonderful way. And white space, there's nobody is using the word. And so we can kind of own this platform and this phrase.
As a brand strategist, I'm proud of you. That's a fantastic meaning into the name, refining our health and our humanity.
And so really that all leads to how do you create, and how through Argentis have we created this environment that helps touch on what I call the 6 pillars of longevity. So the 6 pillars from my point of view are: number 1, food is medicine. So what you put in your body is fueling your cells. Number 2, movement is key. Some people call it exercise. I call it movement, but there's 4 types. So strength training, cardio, long walking, and stretching. You need all of those 4 in different amounts as you age appropriately. But a lot of people just go to the gym and work out and they do a lot of strength, but they forget about the other aspects. So that's the second one, is movement. The third one is sleep. We all know sleep and all the data that's coming out on the importance. And many people have got devices now that they're wearing to track it. So sleep. Stress, reducing that fight or flight, the time that we're in the elevated cortisol. So reducing stress, number 4. And we're going to talk about number 5 a lot today, environment. So what environment am I putting myself in? Is it a toxic environment? And that could be heavy metals, PFAS, could be the air pollutant. It could be toxic people. It can be the tone, the support network you're around. That affects you a lot too. And then the 6th and final is purpose. Kind of purpose and community, like what's your drive? Why are you getting up in the morning? What's your joie de vivre, and so forth. So those 6 things come together in my lens of the 6 pillars of longevity. And certainly they are interlaced a little bit. And I know we're going to talk a lot about environment today. So that's really where Argentis is. So if we can create a physical environment that we can control the environment, it moves into an operating system in the background. So everything and everywhere you are, health is being optimized. And obviously as AI and technology and sensors are all evolving rapidly over time, all of those are going to happen, and things will adjust automatically to balance what you need. Is it wake up time? Is it sleep time? Is it energy time, focus time, and so forth? Different times of the day, different modes, then the environment can sort of impact those things and help you get to that optimal performance, or sort of more life lived better is our tagline for Argentis.
When someone experiences Argentis today, what actually feels really different from real estate projects that they might have experienced in the past?
Reducing friction really is that first thing, and freeing up time. I think most of us move between spaces during our day to get done, whether it's going to the gym, going to the office, working from home, picking up groceries, cooking. All of those elements create friction. And so the first thing is removing all of that friction so you can seamlessly move between those different physical states. And I talk about a day in the life really as kind of how I look at Argentis, and everybody has a different day in the life. But my day in the life would start with an early morning workout. Then I'd get a healthy breakfast. Then I'd get some productive work done. Then I'd go outside. I'd do some skiing or some biking or a hike. Then I'd come back for a team meeting. Then I'd grab some food that I can take back to my kids, something healthy, and still feel like a good parent. And then maybe come back for an event or some kind of education on something new that's happening in the industry. And so by mapping all of that into one physical infrastructure, you can move. So I think fragmentation and ease is the first thing that you would feel coming into Argentis house, because it's all connected. It's in a big campus, so it's a large space, but you can move between those different zones. The second thing then is we want to get people into the flow state, right? We want them to be creative when they need to be creative, relaxed when they need to be relaxed. And I think all those components, the touch, the feel, the air you're breathing, the water you're drinking, the light, the circadian rhythm. So all of these components are integrated together to help you through your day and get you into flow state.
These are all wonderful things that have been built into longevity experiences and clinics thus far, but not necessarily how we combine live, work, and play. I like to think too, playtime and social
Yep.
fitness is important as well.
There's this real concept or two key concepts I want to get out here. The first is social. So social wellness. So it's fine at home. I've got my gym. I can do my stuff. I can get up early and so forth. But I think we are as a society just craving that social connection. And so the next generation of these spaces is really bringing people out of their home back into a social environment where they can connect while they're doing these things, because it's much more fun. Even cooking, going to cooking classes is fun. You're doing it with other people. You're not just in your own kitchen. Going to, there's brands like Othership and other brands out there that are really creating sort of social spas. And so I think that's a key trend of bringing people out of the home, even if it's a great environment, into these shared environments. Point number two is as you start looking at all these different modalities, and by that I mean cold plunge versus a VASPA machine or an ARX, or some of these advanced sort of home gym technologies, and then you've got red light, and then you've got your supplement stack, and then we are doing more and more as sort of semi-educated pro biohackers, let's call us, and the connection of how those things get connected together, what order you do them in, when you should do some things, when you shouldn't. It's getting more and more complicated. So if you're doing all of that at home without any guidance, it's getting harder and harder. So again, I think as these things shift into an environment like Argentis, we have experts on hand. We're very science driven. And so you can get all the latest, and then you can share that with your community, right? You're bringing your group along. It's not just you as an individual. It's your crew, your best friends, your partner, and so forth. And that's the ripple effect. That's when we can really truly have an impact. We're going to create a ripple effect by educating those people, providing access. And my partner and I have a goal here, which is to turn Park City into the next American blue zone. For those in the audience, if they know what a blue zone is, there's 5 in the world. No one's ever created a new blue zone. Those 5 zones were already existing when the concept was created. And so my partner and I are looking, and Argentis is a tool in that tool belt that we're building to try and create Park City as a blue zone.
I was imagining that it won't be called wellness real estate in the future. It'll be underwritten as symbiotic communities where everything, like you said, is an ecosystem. It senses and all of your data is in one place. And in terms of valuing real estate in the future, health adjusted yield real estate. So buildings that extend tenant health span will show lower insurance costs, probably higher rent premiums, longer tenant retention. And there's a real business case there, a real ROI. Have you been thinking through that with your partner?
Consumers will spend more because they realize that to get that health span and square off the curve, as it's called, about get those 20, 30 extra healthy years, that's a lot of money. It's a lot of spend in sick care. And as we move into well care, they're going to move those dollars into that space, and they'll invest. And the aging demographic just falls into that equation too, right? So you've got almost 2 billion people now over the age of 50. And if others like me want to live to the age of 100 healthily, not necessarily live to 150, it's not that sort of living super long, it's more just living healthy longer. Then you've got these individuals in the 50 to 100 age who've, generally have got high net worth, they're the baby boomers, they've got affluence, and they're going to be building and looking for those amenities into their homes. And then, of course, their kids, who are the Gen Zs and the Gen Alphas, are going to be experiencing that, hearing about about that, and maybe even influencing their parents to put some of this technology into their home. So it'll be a symbiotic relationship. And then the younger generation is more data centric. They're more accepting. Although I have a 16-year-old daughter and she's very anti-AI. And so maybe there's going to be a ripple effect on technology with sort of that next generation that comes through. But I think the 20s and 30 somethings out there now are very tech, they're very wired, they're connected, they've got a lot of data, and they're going to expect their environments, whether it's their work environment or their home environment, to change with them and to help them optimize their performance, their mental clarity, their sleep, and all of those elements that go into that. So yeah, a lot of investment is going to go into this space, and I see that in terms of sort of the prices. I don't think there's a phrase yet that sort of captures, like a 5-star index or something that says, hey, is this home, how sort of wellness or health span oriented is this home? But maybe that's an opportunity for somebody to do. And so for a consumer, it's easy for them, or easier for them to know, okay, well, I'm going to rent this place versus this place. And what is sort of the return on investment, and what I call return on healthy time. So if I spend 20% more dollars on this rental, how much more healthy time am I likely to get? And insurance companies are trying to work on these formulas, as are health companies that are selling, like red light and other technology to help consumers. I think the willingness is there in the older generation, especially because health becomes more visible, or ill health becomes more visible as you age, right? When you're 20 and 30, you've got other big life things going on, working on your career, maybe starting a family, a bunch of things happening that take up your time and energy and resources. As you get into your sort of 40s and 50s, and that changes a little bit, suddenly health becomes this big thing. And then the dollars and the wallet opens up, and the spending happens.
One of the things to think about is that almost 80% of the wealth in America right now is owned and controlled by people aged 45 plus. So you're not wrong to start with the aging population, because that is where the profitability is going to be in the near future. And then you talked about certification. I think the Well has something called Well Certified right now. So you could have Argentis certified in the future. They've proven out that the buildings that are Well Certified report rent and value premiums. You mentioned investment. Where do we see capital flowing in the next decade? One of the thoughts that I had was that's different from what's happening today is we can imagine maybe health insurers co-investing in housing and spaces like yours, employers leasing performance optimized offices. So you could have Argentis office spaces, sovereign funds backing longevity districts. So a lot of the capital flow can come from new places that you might not have been able to tap into before.
I like to use this phrase, we health, instead of we work, right? So it used to all be about the workspace and collaborating, physically working. I think we're now moving into this we health mode, where it's about health-centric, focused, collaborative experiences, whether that's the workspace or, living space and other places that we are together. And you're right on the investment. I think, the aging population, the dollars are there, the spend is going to be there. And so investment will always follow, where the consumers were, 75, 80% consumer capital market here in the US. So those investment dollars are, already starting to happen. I think you make some great points there on some of these new areas that you might not have expected to hear from before. Brian Johnson, is out there kind of publishing a lot of stuff. People are learning more. Gary Brecker, he came from an insurance company and saw what was going on. And so, yes, there's a lot of information that they have, and an interest in aging population. I hope that a lot of dollars moves, and that consumers get to make that choice for themselves, which is, I want to live a longer, healthier life. I want to be the CEO of my health. We use this phrase a lot at Argentis, that the consumer or a client or the CEO, your listeners, you have to become the CEO of your health. You can't just look at your doctor and expect them to have the time, energy, or understanding in an ever-changing world where there's just so much. Medicine is changing. We're learning so much. And we've got AI out there helping us diagnose and analyze all this data. Your doctor can't do that for you. So you have to take control, become CEO of your health, and then surround yourself with brands like Argentis. We're your chief of staff. So our job is to assemble all the resources you need to be able to make the right decisions, but you are the CEO. And hopefully, as more people become the CEO, the consumer population we'll have all these CEOs choosing well care over sick care rather than doctors being our CEOs who've ultimately been incentivized to choose sick care for us, right? And so as we start to take control back, make our own decisions, our dollars will flow, and then investment dollars should flow.
There are billions of dollars going into longevity companies right now. It's one of the fastest growing investments behind AI. I do feel that you're in the right space for the future. It's going to grow along with AI, and AI will enable it even more. I see our Argentis as a living lab, and I think it's going to be really important for Argentis and everything you're building to really build those continuous health loops into the experience and gather the increase in cognition when you increase someone's healthy nutrition or change their circadian rhythms and put them into their flow state. What are the healthy outcomes that come out of that? Between all of the wearables and the sensors and the environment and the use of AI, what are the effects of social fitness? I just interviewed Dr. Mark Schultz, who did the longest happiness study in history with Harvard, and relationships are the number one indicator of longevity. So you talk about social wellness, he calls it social fitness. It's absolutely imperative, especially as we age and all the loneliness that we have. So measuring those healthy outcomes, I think your company could be a great source of data for investment in the future.
Firstly, the social wellness, it's the sixth pillar of longevity, as I talked about before. So purpose and community, that's super important. Measuring what you do is critical. And I'll give a great example. There was a gentleman I interviewed here for Argentis to become a member, and I asked him what his health routines were. And he sort of had 6 different places that he went. There's Upgrade Labs, there's his gym, goes to a cold plunge place, all these different kind of spaces. And I asked him a simple question is, well, how are you measuring what's working? And he looked at me with a blank stare, like, well, what do you mean? Well, what are you doing? Are you looking at your blood work? You're looking, and he was spending thousands of dollars a month as a sort of motivated biohacker, reading all the stuff, but he wasn't looking at the data and understanding that. And I think we as an industry, the longevity industry, need some simpler data. There is this concept of biological age. So not your chronological age minus 53, your biological age minus 38 by certain markers, right? So you can sort of look at your body in different ways, your telomere length and your blood work and different things to go, hey, what does my body look like? I think the next generation of those looks at each organ, so your brain and your bones, and you can go even more specific. So there's, sort of data like that that's happening. But for me, I simply look at what I call healthy days. It's the simplest measure for me on my own health. So how many days of the year do I have a healthy day? What is a healthy day? A healthy day is when pain or disease or sickness has not infiltrated my day. So I've been able to be as productive as I can be. Might not be 100% productive, whatever that means, but I haven't had pain in my body. I haven't had sickness and disease. And so for me, I haven't had a sick day in 10 years. I don't have sick days. I don't feel off. So for me, that's my measure of health. And all the doing that we're doing here is that's the benefit I get. But you've got the Aura Ring, you've got readiness, you've got all these different data points. It's getting very complex in terms of how do we measure the impact of these things. Data is key, but we've got to make it invisible. We've got to make it simpler, and ultimately waking up fully refreshed, having a productive day, being able to do whatever the doing is, whether it's being with kids or focused brain at the office, traveling, sleeping, while you're traveling, all those just things. We've got to figure out how to sort of measure that so that we can create the ROI for all this energy and effort that's going into the space.
I've seen you continuously measuring your VO2 max. Are you doing that for your members as well?
Yeah, we have a whole series of things that we do. So we have within Argentis, we have Argentis Medical, and Argentis Medical is this concierge health practice that covers 3 different areas. We call it problem, prevention, and performance. Problem is the acute sick care. Hey, I've got something wrong. Can you help me? Prevention is much of what we've talked about already today. So optimize. And then performance is for those elite individuals, whether they're a business person or an athlete. How do I kind of just get to sort of 10 out of 10? And so within Argentis Medical, we have that. And then we have different things that we measure across the way. So VO2 max has been around for a while. We use one called PANOE. It's a little bit more elevated reporting than just a traditional VO2 max. But a lot of things from DEXA scan, obviously advanced blood work, your sleep data. So each of those 6 pillars that we talked about earlier, they all have data points, right? So the food you're ingesting, we track everything through our app. It automatically analyzes it with AI. It matches it to your microbiome. So there's the food piece, the exercise piece based on your goals. What are you trying to do? Are you trying to gain muscle, lose fat, stretch, mobility? Different goals mean you do different things, but you have to track that. Your sleep, your stress level. So all of those things get tracked. Your environment. So we do in-home assessments with Argentis Medical, so we can come into your home and assess, your water, your light, your air, and the toxins and so forth. And it's different in different markets. We have a population that's moving to hot environments. It maybe as you get older, it's nicer to live there and so forth. Maybe they're cheaper, whatever they are. But we're getting these people moving from cold to hot. But in those hot environments, there are a lot more environmental factors, mold being one of those that have to be thought through and assessed. So it's not just data about your body. We talked about those with the Oura Ring and so forth. It's data about your environment, and I think people are going to get smarter when they buy a home to have these assessments done in advance and map that to their longevity goals.
So many people live with invisible mold and they have no idea that it's killing them slowly from the inside. So I hope we help to train people how to test for it as well, even before they even buy a home and put money down.
I know we just talked about mold, but this is very much in the news, in the air, as it were. And I think this is going to be the next mold, the next M, from mold to microplastic. So I was lucky enough at my last company, Lumadi, to kind of launch the first at-home saliva microplastic test. You can actually just swab yourself, send it in, and through seeing that data from hundreds of clients, we could see what the home environment was doing to the ingestion of microplastics. And so we could start seeing the early signals of that connection, even with a few hundred data points. Obviously, as that company now gets, thousands of data points, is going to be helpful. So I think microplastics over the next few years is going to become the next thing to be thinking about, to be testing within your home environment. And some things are things that you control, your containers, are they glass, and your cooking equipment and all that kind of stuff, and how you heat food and avoid microwaves. But one client, I won't use her name, but she was on the 99th percentile after doing the test, which means sort of the worst. And it turns out that at home she had a turf field. She'd taken grass and turned it into a turf field, and it was about 8 years old, and it was all decaying. And so that had led to some of her issues, along with some of the fillings she changed into plastic for some other issues, other health issues she had. So just again, awareness and understanding that for 80% of people, no problem, but for 20% of people, it's orange, and for 2% of people, it's red. And you don't know, are you green, orange, or red? So it's a very simple test to do. It's inexpensive to do these things. And so, so that comes back to environment. Some of the things you don't control as what's being put in your environment in these homes. So just wanted to add that to your audience.
I think it's one of the biggest untapped opportunities for AI. So AI's optimized drug discovery, but it hasn't optimized daily exposure yet. It's helped map genomes, but not our bedrooms yet. So as longevity science and performance tracking advance, I think environment's becoming one of the most overlooked drivers of long-term health and lifespan, as we've just discussed. And I think AI-enabled solutions could really lean in there to help people for understanding, where the dangers might be, but also optimization along the way.
Inputs and outputs, right? So the inputs are the environment, the outputs is my performance, right? I want to be an optimal performer. That's the output. And so I've got to understand my inputs. So any technology solution that helps analyze data at scale in real time, and obviously AI is part of that stack, to be able to look at connecting the dots. I think that the biggest challenge with health, and why it really needs supercomputing and AI to help us, is we are N of one, right? We've got our genetics, we've got our epigenetics, sort of our environment, if you will, and we've got all these decisions and all these things we make, where we go, where we live, where we work, where we drive. There's just so much. So we're all N of one. And so to be able to say, hey, for me, this works. And so your doctor in today's world can't contextually do that, right? It's just too impossible. There's just too much data that doctor, and maybe that doctor's, frankly, maybe only seen 1,000 patients or 5,000 patients. But we're going to have the ability within the next few years for the AI to see 100 million patients at that level of detail. And so I think the patterns that are going to be able to get connected, and the real-time tracking, right? So how do you know what was the input that changed that output? How do you know that I got better sleep because I took the medication, or I didn't drink, or I went to bed the right time, or my dog didn't cough? The reality is, if you're putting garbage into your body, you're going to destroy your body, right? Your cells need healthy things to regenerate. So if you're putting crappy food in your body, that's not good. If you're not moving and getting light on your body, and you're not breathing good air, clean air, you are 40 trillion cells, and you have your DNA, which is your blueprint, and everything you're breathing and eating is used by the cells to create energy to replicate as perfectly as possible based on the blueprint, those 40 trillion cells. That's health. That is all health is, and it all happens without you thinking about it. It's all completely autonomous. So whatever we put in our bodies, around our bodies, whether that's the soap, the shampoo, the toothpaste, whether it's the air, the light, the energy, whether it's the food, and then what we do with our bodies, the exercise, the stress we're creating, those are all the things that we can control. And that is what health is about understanding that, and not just living your life blindly, because all of these little micro decisions, health is not one decision. It's your entire ecosystem. It is your operating system. It's in everything that you do. And I think that's what we're waking up to do, is going back to the CEO of your health, is people understanding that they can now see it, track it, and make the, what I call the invisible visible, right? Your cells are invisible. You can't see what they're doing, but with this data and these systems, we're making that invisible visible. And then through that inputs, I can make better decisions for my outputs.
Health is our wealth, period, in the future. I've been doing a lot of work in this space, and I've done a lot of work on the home of the future. And I think our home is also going to become our chief operating officer of our health. It's no longer a house, it's a regenerative habitat. It senses our needs sometimes even before we realize we have one. Because of all the technology and invention that's going on right now, light cycles will entrain the circadian rhythm precisely. We already have companies in that space doing that. Air composition will shift based on our cognitive demand. So there's going to be a lot of brain home connection that we don't even experience today. Temperature will adapt to our metabolic state. Imagine women going through menopause and their house just knows they're having a hot flash and it gets cooler
Cools down.
automatically,
Yeah.
right? Like, what
Yeah.
woman going through menopause isn't going to want that? Our walls will be able to read our emotions and our cognitive state in the future. Our living spaces will start nudging us in our behavior towards better sleep, movement, and recovery, which is what you've been talking about today. It won't just be incumbent upon us. We will be one with our environment in the future and our home, and it'll be way more valuable than just, shelter and protection, or even just a place of love. You don't need that cup of coffee in the morning. You got enough sleep last night, maybe skip it. Although we know caffeine has other health benefits. Delos is one of the leading companies in this space, and their Darwin platform. And they're really starting to lean in here. And then on top of that, outside of all the technology, the building materials themselves will become self-healing and regenerative. And that's going to happen in office spaces, but definitely in the home space. You can imagine that there's this hybrid committee of a chief wellness officer with data scientists and residents working together as a panel to engineer everyone in the community to thrive and adapt. The energy level in the community is down. We need to create more social connection or time, or maybe we need to include more recovery spaces.
Yeah, I think that I agree with everything you said, and obviously wonderful you're pulling this data together and sharing this with your audience to help others think and broaden their mindset. I think getting back to nature and natural environments and spending time in those is as critical in your healthy time. So yes, I can see you being in this house that's sort of perfectly automated and symbiotic, but I think outside the house, there is a natural environment that we have to make sure that we are in and we're exposed to in different ways, throughout our days and throughout our lives. That's what our bodies are 500,000 years of engineering have been connected to, and we've been disconnecting, or we're being more and more disconnecting from that over the last couple hundred years. And so leaning back in these environments and these spaces, I think that's going to be key, bringing the outside in. So I just wanted to make a shout out on that.
When I'm asked what is the workspace of the future. One of the key components of that is man, machine, and nature living symbiotically together. When we're all connected with nature, employees will perform better. And as we know that a lot of office work might shift to more physical labor in the future, there's going to be a lot more outside work in the future.
Well, unless the robots are going to do all of that. But
Some of that, yes. I don't want a robot cutting my hair yet. I've decided that. I've been doing a lot of thinking around this. There's certain things that I'm not letting robots near
how about the massage? Have
my
you had the
body.
Escape? Have you had the Escape massage yet?
I'm not. I don't want
Not
that
going yet.
either. I think there's an energy to human touch, and there's an importance to human touch, and we all carry energy with us, and we can share that with others. I'm not going to be getting that energy from a robot. Even as a futurist, there's going to be certain things that are very sacred when it comes to healing and humanity. If you can continue to gather your data, prove your outcomes, do your human trials, I think companies like Argentis will impact the entire healthcare ecosystem. What if doctors start prescribing Argentis to people in the future because of the data that you're collecting? Maybe health insurance becomes cheaper for people who are members of Argentis, just like we have good driving discounts today. I'm not saying it's going to happen in the year 2026, but I can absolutely imagine that in the next 5 years.
Everything you just said are conversations that we have with our team here as we work to move outside of the physical Argentis house, which is sort of the showcase experience, into primary care doctors' offices and help roll out our platform into those because they don't have time and energy and the way to deliver. And so being able to deliver this, life care as an operating system or well care as an operating system, right, and bring it to primary care, and then we can get to the hundreds of thousands, if not the millions of lives. That leads to more data. More data leads to better decisions. And so I think we have to partner with the existing ecosystems, which are primary care when it comes to health. And we have to assist and help them and support them, giving them these tools so that they can turnkey and roll them out. That's part of the Argentis medical future and stuff that we're talking about. The same with the life insurance and new insurance platforms are going to come where people are making better decisions and can prove it to be able to pay it lower. There's going to be a lot of shakeups in the next 20 years. It's an exciting space to be in. There was a Men's Health article that said that this sort of social wellness, fitness, kind of combining these spaces together is going to be a $200 billion market in the next 5 years alone. And so if you add sort of real estate onto that, that's, I'm sure it's going to get to $1 trillion before we know it. And it's an exciting space to be in. And great that you're tracking this and you're always ahead of the curve, which is awesome. It's what I love about you, Kimberly, and appreciate you bringing all this messaging to your audience.
So, Ashley, you have three beautiful, wonderful children who I've been blessed to meet. They're so fantastic. I'd love for you to share that yellow painting behind you. Who did that for you?
Thank you. That's one. It's probably it's a year old now. Chloe, my oldest, she's 16. She's as you said, a beautiful human, and she's an equestrian. Is her life, her horses. But one of her other gifts is her art, and she doesn't really understand the talent that she has. I think that's often creators, and they just don't understand what they have. And so we love seeing the work that she creates. So I like to have the positive stuff around me to be motivated. But so that's Chloe. She's awesome. She's an amazing artist, and I have a dancer, Lola, who's a performer in a different way. And then my son Dash is 12, and he's my best buddy, and we play soccer together and computer games and all the good stuff, ski together. And so no, I'm very blessed and think a lot about family and health and how much I've learned in the last 15 years of being in this space and versus my parents and different generations and how health was thought about. So thank you for asking for them. I'll show them this podcast when it comes out, and I'm sure they'll enjoy watching it, and appreciate having you in our lives.
I adore your children, and you just have a beautiful family. Lastly, what is the legacy you want to leave for your children?
I talked about Park City becoming a blue zone in the next 20 years. I think that's sort of my North Star right now is what are the resources and tools that we have to assemble here in Park City in this area to step towards that goal. And if we can, then the ripple effect of that will hopefully be some connective tissue that solves some of this moreness in health, where it should be less hospitals, less sick care. That's what success looks like: less medication, like less, not more, right? So I think the legacy for me is, how do I create less in health so it's not talked about, it's invisible, it just, we're healthy, we don't have to talk about sickness, it just honestly disappears. So that's my life's work. It was driven by my brother and his accident, and so I attribute most of this to him and his recovery and all the work that he's done. And so yeah, it's a privilege to be in this space and be of service to all the people that we connect with and help on a daily basis. Appreciate you asking that question and connecting the dots between this and letting me share my story a little bit with your audience. And hopefully it inspires them in some way, and certainly can reach out and be happy to take any questions or share what we're doing with others and help create that ripple effect.
James, your brother, I hope he gets to watch this episode too. Just a wonderful conversation we had today. So thank you, Ashley. Thank you so much for your time today.
Thanks, Kim. Thanks to the audience for watching. And please reach out and think about health is wealth.
If you're enjoying the show and appreciate what we do, the simplest way you can support us is by hitting the subscribe button and sharing this episode with others. And by doing this, our commitment to you is we'll do our very best to make each and every episode better than the last. See you in the future.